Hi everyone, so today I want to talk about stopping nervous habits. Now, I understand that there are a lot of nervous habits out there, and I've only dealt with a few. Today I'm only going to be talking about the ones that I've dealt with personally during my time dealing with anxiety, but I'm hoping that some of the methods that I use might be able to help you as well. Now, the first nervous habit is something that a lot of people deal with, and that is nail biting. I've done this for quite a long time, but once my anxiety got to its worst, I really bit them a lot. There are a few things that I use to help myself stop biting my nails. One of them was the anti-nail biting solutions. You can pick them up in your local pharmacy. I think they even have them in some like just general like stores and shops and things. It's basically like a nail polish that tastes absolutely awful. So when you put your fingers in your mouth, you have like the most foul taste in the world. It worked to a certain extent with me. The only downside is that then if you want to eat like a packet of crisps or eat something with your fingers, the taste of that transfers onto the food and it makes sort of that kind of experience really, well, I don't know, just I didn't use it for a long time because I didn't really like it an awful lot. But similarly, there was another method that I used, and that was painting my nails with lots of coats of nail polish so that it was so hard that I couldn't bite into them. And to be honest, it sort of made me not want to bite them as much because my nails look really nice with loads of polish on. And obviously you can get nail hardeners as well if you're at school or in a workplace where they don't let you paint your nails, and you can just apply lots of coats of that and it should make it hard for you to bite your nails. The next thing I did was allow myself to bite my nails a little bit when I was really anxious. Now, I know that this might sound weird to people who like have never sort of been hooked on biting your nails, but for those of you who have, you'll understand that sometimes when you're really anxious you just really feel the need to. So instead of actually physically biting them, I would just put them near my mouth. Now I know that this probably sounds like absolutely insane to some of you, but sort of just having them near my mouth comforted me. Another important thing to do is to keep your nails trimmed short to take away the temptation. I know that sometimes if I've grown my nails out a little bit longer and one of them snags, I find it so hard, like even when I'm not anxious, just I find it really hard not to put it in my mouth and like rip off the bit that's snagged. So I like to keep them just short and trimmed so they don't snag, they don't catch, and the temptation just isn't there. Finally, I would recommend trying to keep your hands as busy as possible, whether it's just like doodling, fiddling about with a bit of string, I don't know, just keeping your hands away from your mouth is the key to this. Also, I would just say try to be aware as well of what you're doing with your hands. Sometimes just subconsciously I put my hands in my mouth to bite my nails and I just don't even realise it until someone says, oh, you know, don't bite your nails or something. So it's just important to be aware of what you're doing with them. I know that that might sound a bit weird as well. I think this whole video is going to sound really weird actually. But yeah, just be aware when you are doing it and make yourself stop. The next nervous habit that I deal with is foot tapping and leg bobbing. This is something that I've done for a long time and I do use it to relieve like stress and anxiety. To be honest, it's not probably one of the worst ones in the world, but obviously it can be inconvenient at times, so it is something that I have tried to sort of make myself stop. And just like I was saying before with the nail biting, it's important to realise what you're doing. Sometimes you can do it without realising, and then once you've acknowledged it, then you have to think, okay, I need to stop this. Now, stopping it altogether might seem like a bit of a task at first. You might be able to do it for a little while, and then once your mind gets distracted, it starts like bobbing or you start tapping again. I would recommend sitting with your legs crossed because it stops me from being able to tap and from my legs being able to bob. And it's really easy to do in like any situation, whether you're sat on a chair or even if you're standing and you're a foot tapper, standing with your legs crossed at the ankles will really help. Also, finding a way to exert pressure on your leg will help. I know that this sounds really weird as well. I'm going to say that a lot this video because I feel like I'm a bit of a crazy person when I'm talking about this kind of thing. But I feel like if I sort of press down on one of my legs, it sort of helps me relieve tension and it almost acts as like a substitute to bobbing my leg a lot. Again, This probably sounds like a really weird thing to do, but you can do it sort of quite discreetly. So if you're like stood on a train and you're feeling quite anxious, I sort of like to sort of lean ever so slightly to one side and just press down, and I find that it's sort of just, like I said, it just sort of helps me to relieve the stress, and I like the tension that it gives in my legs, so that might be something that you'd like to try as well. Teeth grinding. This is another thing I deal with. This is a slightly more like serious thing as well, because obviously it's not good to grind your teeth. I will start by saying that in very extreme cases you might want to invest in a mouth guard or talk to your dentist about the different options out there. For me, during the night I don't grind my teeth because I used to wear braces, so I wear a retainer at night, so I don't sort of have that thing in my sleep. If some people do grind their teeth in their sleep, it can sort of really wear down their teeth and lead to all kind of tooth problems. So if you do think that you grind your teeth at night or during the day without yourself realising it, I would definitely contact your dentist. If at first you do feel like you really need the mouth movement and you find that comforting, I would recommend sugar-free gum, although I wouldn't recommend this on the long term, because there are lots of things about, like, you know, constantly chewing gum, it's bad for your stomach acid and all that kind of thing, but sort of for momentary relief, that's something that I would definitely recommend. Also, another thing that I tried was licorice root, and I actually found that to be quite beneficial. It's something that you shouldn't overindulge in because I think it is like a relaxant or a laxative, I'm not 100% sure on that, but you can get them in like Holland and Barrett or something. Just strip off like little pieces of the root and it's like a hard candy. And it is good for you as well, and I just like used to chew on that, and it's quite sweet as well, so I quite like the taste. Obviously if you don't like licorice then I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, that's definitely something to consider. The last nervous habit I'm going to talk about is wringing your hands. This is something that when my anxiety reaches its peak, and while I was dealing with really bad anxiety, I definitely did a lot. It's not really harmful, but I think it's always good to try and kick all nervous habits because you shouldn't really be relying on that kind of thing for comfort in the long term. I mean, in the short term, if you are dealing with like a panic attack and that makes you feel better, then I can understand why you would want to do it, but in the long term, it's good to try and kick the habits. The first thing I would recommend doing is, one, noticing that you were doing it. Like I've said in this video before, it can be hard to recognise that you're actually doing it. Sometimes you do it without even thinking. Once you have recognised it, there's two ways you can go. You can either unclasp your hands completely and perhaps put them on your leg and like grip your legs, or you can clasp your hands tightly together if that still gives you comfort. And I just like to squeeze my palms together sometimes. That sort of relieves a bit of tension, but obviously then it's sort of like a vicious cycle. Don't then become dependent and start having a nervous habit like squeezing your hands together and whatnot. That isn't good either, but for the short term I think it's a good idea. If you still struggle with just holding your hands together, another thing that I would recommend is sitting on your hands. Obviously if you're in the workplace or at school, that's quite a hard thing to do, but I think if you're at home it's not so bad. Just sometimes, like while I was watching TV, I realised that I was wringing my hands because I felt anxious, so I started sitting on them to try and stop the habit, and I found that to be really effective. Another thing I did was hold something else. I used to hold a stress ball because that's what they're made for. Just squeeze that. You can hold anything really, just something perhaps that you want to fiddle with to distract yourself, and then gradually sort of use that less and less, and then hopefully eventually you'll be able to just sit with your hands in your lap or whatever you want to do, just not dependent on wringing your hands. That is it for me for today. As always, I will leave links in the description box below just for you to do some further reading on some of the points that I've touched today, and I hope that some of you found this helpful. Also, if there's anything that you want me to make a video on in the future, please leave it in the comments, and also just discuss amongst yourself in the comments any other tips and tricks that you have for anyone else dealing with anxiety and anyone trying to stop their nervous habits. Okay guys, bye!